Too many rides here. Another day in the shop. And we're with 2K and his wiring. It's been kind of a slow go. And let me explain that. We're not really wired yet by any means. I've been going over all the components on here. Double checking continuity, mocking things up, looking to see what I've got and how it fits, and then deciding how I'm going to achieve that. It's close to what I had before, but new and improved. Plus, there's the changeover of some parts and from one bike to the other, and some slightly different ways of doing stuff, which I might explain as we go along. A real rat's nest is what we have up front because of the handlebar switch being a different one. It has less power wires available. It has a 4-position switch instead of a 3, and I need to decide how I'm gonna hook stuff up. I have taken the OEM harness and narrowed that down to just one wire. This is the wire that grounds out when you are hitting your kill switch or turning your key off. Normally out of that was a green and a blue. The green I had been using for a ground. And the green plug itself, which was a female's connector, an actual Y, We're recording.
We are live right now, folks. Yeah, I'll be right on it.
I got this headlight, and I've been running a 50 low beam, 65 high beam, and during this changeover I noticed I was getting too hot. These get really hot. That's why they only put in a 35-35. You know, those 35-35s just aren't bright enough to really ride safely. So I still want to go with this. I'm going to try to dissipate the heat by the process I'm making here. I'm going to put, it's the ground over here on the right side that gets too hot. And it was melting my plug and the connector down the line. So I'm going to try to have a heat sink is the goal here. I've got some spots marked on it here. So it's okay to go ahead and start drilling. This will be easy. Those holes are going to have to be cleaned up. They're dirty. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying to create more of a heat sink. The ground's here on the right side of the bulb as you look at it from the back, and I'm going to have the wire as short as it can be to go to something that can absorb some of the heat that's produced here. It was getting so hot here it was melting the plug, and the connector down the line was getting fried as well. Luckily it didn't go too far, and you don't run all the time with your bright light on, but this will be somewhat of a heat sink and a location that I can put other grounds to.
Too many rides here.
Since we have a nice ground lug here, we've got a place where I can go ahead and ground out the signals. Instead of sending them off to the harness or even having to disconnect them when I go to take the headlight off, they'll stay with the headlight. 800 degrees. I bought this from Granger's back in 1980 and it's still serving me well. The whole idea is I'm creating a heat sink here, but also it's a ground lug that I can use for multiple grounds. Just while I'm passing here, while I was working on stuff and getting it mounted, I thought I'd go ahead and ground the turn signals here. Both right and left will be grounded right here. Actually, I think I want to put it down low because there's lots of room. And just for the hell of it, I'm going to put it right about here. Really nice ground for both turn signals. This is where the action is. Nice and deep within this housing. So that's how that is. Coming out of the headlight bulb harness, they had this green wire, which isn't even needed. If you look at that, it can come right out. And eventually I'm going to pull it out of the turn signal flash or two, and it is going to power up my front brake light switch. We're not using a parking light, and I am going to use that wire for something else later on. Take what you got and make it work for what you're going to do, so that it is removable from the turn signal switch wiring harness. This is now going to power up these lights when the high beam is on only. When you're putting on these crimp connectors, you don't want to strip a whole lot back. You only strip a small amount. Then the ground. I'm big on having a lot of grounds, good grounds. So here you've got your raw connectors and your crimp tool. You need to put your insulation on here because you won't be able to get it on afterwards. So let's figure about what length that's got to be. You have to be able to put your connector insulator on and still leave room to get this all crimped. So that means I need to cut back to about here on that. Then you load your connector up in the tool. Pre-crimp it slightly, because you got a grip on it. Next thing, make sure you've got your insulator on the wire you're going to put it on. And there's two ends to this, a smaller one and a bigger one. The bigger one's made to go over the whole thing once it's crimped. Then you want to shove that in just far enough, not too far. There's just room to see down in there and see where you're at. There's a finished product. Let's take care of the other three. You know what's funny about this overheating I was having, it doesn't happen on the hot wires, it happens on the ground. You've got your crimp right on the wire itself, and then you have a crimp on the insulator of the wire. That way it's what you call a strain relief. As you put strain on it, it's not going to just be grabbing on the wire itself. That's going to go right into ground. As you look at this, that particular spade, which is where it overheats, has two wires emanating from it. I'm going to use two wires to ground. I want all this ground capability, and I want some heat sink here to absorb the heat that's created from this high wattage bulb. I would like it to be side by side and shoved in, all in one group.
Due to the nature of what we've got here.
This is going right here to the terminal block, the ground lug, and the others are heading towards all the wiring harness behind the headlight. I've got a little bit of work done, thanks to Seventh Day Adventurous Griff hammer work. So what you've got here is your high beam, your low beam is the green with the blue stripe, and of course black's ground. Get your little tool and mount your crimp in there, feeling this edge here, so you know you got it in the right position, and pre-crimp it slightly. These are a ratchet effect. It won't back off until it's all the way crimped. Then it'll open again. So we're safe to maneuver or whatever. And the whole idea about the placement I mentioned is you can see the end of your wire as it comes through here, and know that you're in the perfect position to crimp on the insulation of the wire and not stick too much through and not have it back too far. Just like that. And this is for the ground. This grounds anything that needs a ground within your handlebar switch. So the horn uses this, the kill switch uses it. For instance, when you push your horn button, okay, so there's our headlight connections. Once again, low beam, high beam, and ground. They're expecting you to do all your grounds back there. I've got multiple grounds, up front, back, double wired. I want ground. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is Too Many Rides signing off for the day. I am so worn out from all this work we've done. I'm just gonna have to take a nap.